Hey, Coach. First off, thanks for joining us. I know it's kind of a difficult time for everybody. Everybody's in the same situation. Give me kind of an update from your perspective of what you know right now as far as what the summer might look like. Are you guys going to get back in there anytime soon and try to get your summer programs going before next season?
I got to be honest. I've heard a lot of different reports on what is potential to happen. Right now, as the AD and football coach at Hagerstown, I've got to try to figure out if we can't do anything in June, which uh, from the Department of Ed it says our all facilities are closed till June 30th. Well, that's when we hold our fitness lab, which all of our athletes train together. Um, so we got this new weight room in and all this cool stuff happening, and we can't use it yet. So I've been trying to plan for how we're going to be able to do kind of a virtual training classroom in the summer for our kids to still get their points toward their letter jackets and still to be in some kind of shape before July hits. I'm hoping that July 1st, from that point on, we'll be able to get back to close to normal. Um, I'm also hoping that a really big hope is that maybe they'll loosen some of the restrictions on how many people we can get together at one place on a school facility. If that's the case, I basically got like five different plans going, waiting on somebody to give us an okay.
Yeah.
Um, I've got some equipment I've ordered to give our athletes to train with at home, kind of do like a drive through where they come in and collect it and then return it when they come back to school, just resistance bands, stuff like that. But then I've also got a plan in place with our coaches to where we can, if we get to say work with 15, 20 athletes at a time, then we just keep a rotation of people going through and keeping the facilities clean and keeping social distancing, space everyone out. Um, to make sure that everybody's still safe, but can still be trained effectively. Um, so to be honest with you, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like you got to have a plan, but you could do all this planning and it could all just go away. So with
Yeah.
the state releasing some restrictions right now and easing up a little bit, if there's no major change with the virus spreading more or whatever, I think that gradually we'll get close to back to normal. I still am interested to see. I've already looked into pricing the uh, the guns you use to put to get temperatures and stuff like that, and I looked into
Yeah.
buying a few of those or maybe several of those because if they may require us to come back and if we practice every day, we have to check temperatures of kids every single day. So that can be a real tedious process if you don't have the equipment to do it quickly. And um, I don't know. I mean, it's I guess it's an opportunity for us to reevaluate how we do some things and an opportunity for us to be creative in training and a real opportunity for the schools whose kids are willing to do stuff on their own when the season comes around. You know, if they're willing to train and do those things on their own with no one pushing them at home, uh, I think the teams that have the most people that do that are going to have the most success in the fall.
You probably, you've been in this game a long time. There is no real substitute though for getting in the weight room and having everybody together, and that's a part that's really going to be missed big time, isn't it?
Oh yeah, yeah, and you know, I saw a tweet by Coach Paget. I thought it was very well written and very intelligent tweet about how if they're going to release, you know, the weight rooms in Indiana to be able for anybody to go train, you know, all these anytime fitnesses and those places, it is a much safer environment to have the kids in a controlled environment with us. And
Yeah.
I thought he worded that perfectly. And I shared it with our administration, you know, and I said, you know, this is right. We should have the kids with us where they're going to learn to train safe. They aren't going to have other people influencing how they do things. Because in a lot of those Planet Fitness type places, people are worried about looking good, and what we're worried about is developing athletes.
Yeah.
And you know, generally, athletes look pretty good, but it's a different style of training, you know.
Yeah.
And when we rebuilt our weight room, that was my whole goal. The end goal was to create a place where it's not a Planet Fitness, it's not an Anytime Fitness, it's a place that's geared toward that. And you know, I agree with Kyle. I think it's important that the state understands if they're going to open up all these other facilities and allow people to go, it's safer for our kids to be with us. So I'm
Yeah.
hoping that something gets changed in that regard.
It's going to take a while, I'm sure, to get caught up. Even if you get back in July, it's not going to be the same. And I would think that maybe the IHSA would also wipe away that moratorium week, because really you've been on moratorium now for the last couple of months. if you get into July and then you start up again, I mean, very, very soon right after that for the official starting time of the season, how much do you work them in July to get ready? Because it's going to be now a longer season because you won't have that time off in July.
Yeah, in 1A, it's a fine line, football wise, because if you work them too much, you're increasing your chance for injury. A lot of our stuff, our staff has been kind of preparing for the worst and not being able to even start. So I told them, let's just plan as if let's have a plan if we can start normal, a plan if we can start in July, and then a plan if we just have to go old school and start when school starts and have 2 weeks to start playing. So what we've been doing is we've been developing kind of a catalog of videos of stuff that we could share with the kids, classroom type stuff, video workouts, video drills, things that they can do at home, trying to find, using plastic cups as cones and just different things to let our kids be able to pull something up on their phone and drill something at home with the coaching points that we're looking for. So when they come back, it's not, we have to teach all this stuff again. Yeah. So we're trying to get all of our basics down that way. So if we have to, if we're forced to not be able to work with them at all until that point, we've at least got a plan to give our kids an opportunity to be successful.
The weight aspect in getting in the weight room, as you know, is such a key. And as you're alluding to, you're trying to help them do something at home. But we all know that not everybody has the amount of weights they need and things like that. Is there anything you can do to help that side of it, knowing they don't have that ability?
Yeah, right at the beginning of this, I put together, at least from my perspective, a lot of coaches are putting like a daily workout online and things like that, just burpees, push-ups, body weight stuff. I'm trying to I tried to find a way to give them ideas on how to be creative, like filling a backpack and using it as kettlebell. And, they have stuff at home that they can move, that's weighted. They can add weight to it. So I created kind of a manual on how to do some home workouts that I sent out at the beginning of this. And I think a lot of kids have been working on it and trying different things. And it kind of helps with them being creative on using just household items to be able to, get stronger, the old farm boy strength kind of thing, And, there's something said about that. So that's what we've done this far. And like I said, when we get into our fitness lab, we're going to go to a video format where if we have to, where I'll provide the kids with resistance bands and items to use at home to add some resistance to what they're doing if they don't have weight sets. Some kids have weight sets at home. My son's really blessed. He's got a gym kind of thing down in the basement. So unfortunately for him, he's been stuck with me this whole time. So he's been pretty good workouts in. But other than that, there's a lot of kids I've seen using buckets of water and carrying them around and, doing goblet squats, holding cases of pop. And I mean, there's all kinds of things they can do. It's just a matter of if they want to use this as an opportunity to gain ground on the people, or if they want to, just not do much and hope for the best, and I'm not real big on hoping for the best. So I'm hoping a lot of our kids are doing the things that other kids from other schools aren't doing. So that's what we've been doing. Just sending out manuals. I send out diet and information because we're all eating at home now a lot more. And if they are going to go to the grocery store, I gave them grocery lists of items to buy. And it's just like a condensed version of what we normally give our athletes. But it gives them an opportunity to make good decisions and hopefully not come back, myself included, not come back weighing 500 pounds.
The other thing, Coach, is that during the summer months, you have kids that are looking to earn spots and get off to a good start when the season begins to roll around. And unfortunately, you kind of have to evaluate them and they have to try to learn to play the game the way they need to play the game from a distance. Now, how much does it hurt some of those kids and how much will they have to catch up now once you guys get back?
Well, I mean, worst case scenario, we're not going to be able to work with them until August, but we're going to have instructional videos with our terminology. And actually, it'll be really good. It's really good for my coaches because they're getting to really fine tune the details of their position groups. So we created a classroom, and we'll be sharing all that information out with them toward the end of this month. We're kind of creating a little, library of things. So if a kid comes out and says, "Hey, I want to play linebacker," and he'll go to our linebacker segment, and it'll say, "These are the drills we run at linebacker. If you're really good at these, you got a shot."
Yeah.
And there'll all be things that maybe they won't have some of the tools to use to be able to do it, but they'll be able to use something at home. We're trying to be creative with that to give them a chance to do the drills on their own at home. So, anytime that you can come into a season and you don't have to teach drills, I think you're ahead of the game. Because the drills ultimately lead to the plays, and if we drill the right way, it'll make us better. I think that our kids are pretty motivated, so I hope that they'll be doing the things they need to do to be successful. Now, where it really struggles for is the young kids, freshmen, incoming freshmen, because their terminology, they're not used to it yet completely.
Yeah.
And so they're going to have to learn a little harder. But every kid's going to have access to these videos. So basically, it's just going to be who takes advantage of it. And I think every school's doing something. I mean, most of the coaches in our conference are great coaches, and I know they've all got a plan, and they're all probably doing something, which makes you nervous because you're hoping you're doing as much as they are, if not more. But it all comes down to ultimately whose kids are going to do the most in the time that they've been given here on their own. And I'm kind of excited to see how it pans out. It might really change the way we do summer stuff in the future with this. If it does work out and coaches are more comfortable with it, not having to have the kids there every single day in the summer like some coaches do, and they might realize that, hey, we can get just as much done with fresh athletes if we do it this way. So it's a learning opportunity and a chance for us to try to be creative and think outside the box, like everybody says.
And as you said too, and when you're in a smaller school, some of these kids are playing other sports too at this time of year. That'd be a great way that if they can't attend a practice or so, they could certainly take advantage of the technology that you're putting out there and still get the work done that they need to in their sport and yours.
Yeah, absolutely. And I told my coaches, the more stuff we get down on video to use, the better. Because then we can start sharing that with younger kids and get the program developing even more. I mean, we try to teach the same things down through middle school level and some at the youth level, but I told our guys, how awesome would it be for our youth coaches to be able to go to our Google Classroom and say, man, I need to, my kid wants to play linebacker when he gets up to the high school. What do I need him to do? And there's a lot of dads who would go out and help their kids, or moms or brothers and sisters that would go out and drill with them and help them do things. And so anytime we can give them an opportunity, because they're going to look anyway, they're going to go on YouTube and they're going to look at something. And if they do, there's great drills out there. But the problem with that is it's not always the same terminology.
Right.
So then they're still kind of putting themselves at a disadvantage because they don't know exactly what we're doing. The fundamentals are probably very similar, but the terminology is what causes problems when you're calling plays or calling defenses. So we're really going to hammer hard on making sure we got that stuff down.
Have you been through a challenge like this before as a head coach with all the unanswered questions, and then again you're having to do what you have to do to try to make sure they stay engaged and everything? Is this the most challenging thing you've had, at least in an off season?
Oh yeah, and as far as the unknown, I mean, usually by February our entire year's planned. We have our calendars out, our camp set, and there's so many things. And I'm sure most coaches are like that. From the AD perspective, though, I got to think about, protecting my coaches on our staff, making sure that they can still be able to work with their athletes at some point, giving them opportunities to do things, because many of them may not. And football is different, I think, because we always I think as coaches, we kind of share information and we try really hard to come up with innovative ways to teach and limit injury and all that stuff. Some coaches just, do their normal thing and go into season. I think if our coaches here see what we're doing and see how we're doing some things, and I share it with all of them, they get ideas. I know several of our coaches now are starting their own classroom and those things. I got some really great coaches here, so it's pretty easy. But my main concern right now is I kind of feel like I'm the football coach of the whole school because, I'm dealing with the strength training and everything. Which I love. And so I have to make sure all of our athletes have a chance to succeed. So that's where it becomes, and which is the main reason why our focus is, we got one year-round program, and it's weight room. It's nothing else. Every other sport shares, but everybody's involved in that 1 year-round program. And so giving all of our kids the opportunity to succeed by giving them training options and teaching the other coaches to use the Google Classroom and stuff like that, which most of them know more than I do. I'm winging it, but they never really thought, hey, I need to get some stuff out there. and now they're starting to do that. It's kind of cool watching all of how creative all of our guys are. So it's the toughest time I've ever seen as far as unknown goes, but it's kind of the coolest time because we're getting a chance to be creative and innovate. And I really like our kids' mentality as a whole in our school. So I know that a majority of them, every school is going to have their kids that don't do anything because they think, well, we don't even have a season. But I think a lot of our kids think, you know, they're going in with the mindset as if we're going to have a season and I'm going to be prepared. I think that we have a chance of being real successful in a lot of stuff.
If I may, then let's talk about the worst of the scenarios. And I think the Indianapolis Star had a story last week that what if the possibility is there's not a high school football season, and that certainly means that you don't have volleyball and those fall sports. And I don't want to think about that, but that is a possibility depending on how this thing turns out. How do you prepare for that? And I don't know if you can, but how do you answer that if that comes up?
I have no idea. I pray daily that we don't have that problem. I think the biggest problem is going to be, you look at. I saw an article that the IHSAA lost almost $500,000 just by canceling the basketball tournament, and they said they would lose over $1 million if they lost the football tournament.
Yeah.
And that's the IHSAA. I get that, but think about all of our schools.
Yeah.
Those are the two sports that bring in the most money for the athletic departments.
Yeah.
And I know here we don't really get money from the school board or anything unless we ask for it for a project. But no one funds us. So all of our purchases, all of our paying officials, everything is paid for by gate and concession money. So if you take away the sports and the seasons where the most gate and concession money come from, athletic departments are going to struggle. So the big thing right now is I'm praying that I planned well enough financially to survive if that's the case. But the big thing to me is, you were an athlete and your senior year, no matter what anybody says, you don't want to wait till your senior year to be successful, but a lot of guys and girls have been training for this to be their biggest moment and their biggest opportunity.
That's right.
And because of injuries in the past and those things. And if they lose that opportunity, I think it'll impact the NCAA and everything.
Yeah.
It'll impact recruiting, money at that level. It could be a mess. I think, and I pray that we'll be able to do something. Now, whether it's limited and then a tournament or I don't know. I'm going to let people smarter than me figure that out, and I'm just going to, whenever they tell me to go, I'm going to take off and go. But I think our conference is works pretty well together. So if something like that did happen to where maybe even we had to shorten the season, they'd work together, come up with a good plan. We got a lot of really good ADs and coaches in our conference that are pretty fair with each other, and so I think that we could come up with a plan if we had to, however it gets presented to us. But I really don't see how financially the IHSA can allow us to not have anything. But the Department of Ed says we're not, so it just comes down to do what we got to do until they change the story.
Hey, before I let you go, the communication side of it is vitally important. How often do you get an update? How often does the IHSA, maybe the Coaches Association, your school board, your coaching staff, do you guys get together on a pretty regular basis, kind of talk about the what ifs and what you're going to do from there?
We don't necessarily get together, but we definitely communicate. I'd say every 2-3 days I get an update. And then, whatever we get, I watch whatever the governor says on TV or on the internet and everything. And we follow the Department of Ed. And there's a lot of people invested to where everybody's paying attention to something. So we just kind of all share that information. I haven't really seen much from the IHSAA after Friday announcements or whatever the last announcement was that said that some gyms could open and things like that on certain dates. And I haven't seen much from that. I did see from the Department of Ed, though, that it was just, June 30th is it. So I'm assuming the IHSA will stick with that unless they get paid a lot more than we do to make those decisions. So I just figure we'll wait till they tell us what we can do and have about 10 different plans, unfortunately. And the only problem with planning for 10 different things is you can't make anything perfect, or close to perfect. Just a lot of ideas. and hopefully we get this stuff done. So what we're trying to do is be smart about preparing to where we can adjust easily if something changes. And it's not like, well, we just spent a month working on something we can't even use. So everything we're trying to do is trying to work smarter, not harder, and come up with stuff that we can use, even if they say, well, now we're not doing anything until this date. So it's just a hurry up and wait and try to be prepared, but see what happens. So I hope so. I mainly for the kids. Every school's got great kids, I think, and I know that our school has fantastic kids that want to compete, and it's an important part of their life, and our coaches too. So I hope it works out, but we'll adjust and adapt and survive.